All right, well, thanks for coming, and I'll turn it over, and you can introduce yourself and tell us what we're doing here today.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I am Josiah Huff, and I'm a senior CIS student this year. And I'll just echo again, thank you for coming. This will be a presentation over mostly my project that I did for an internal internship. This semester I completed, it's called internal internship, but I kind of split it up in 3 different areas. So I did a third of it here at the school, and then I also did a third of it over at MoDOT, Missouri Department of Transportation, and then I also did a third of it as a project, so which I'll be showing you all today. So for my project, I was approached this semester about building a website for a church. There's a startup church called Saving Grace in Monroe City, and so they wanted to get a website going to try to promote themselves a little bit, kind of just show like who they are and just get their name out. So I decided to take that on as my project. And on top of that, also, I wanted to do an Android application just to kind of further my own knowledge in Java programming and just kind of see like what that was all about as well. And so the actual functional part that they'll continue using, hopefully for the next year or so, or down the road, will be this website. But on top of that, I also built this app. So, so like I said, website and Android app. So first of all, looking at the website that created, the goals for the site were to keep it really simple. They wanted it to not be a website where you go and you're looking for things and it's really confusing. They just wanted something that showed who they were and more importantly, like I said on my bottom point, something that reflected the gospel. So basically going into this, my thought process was, okay, I need to show like, this is the church, this is what we believe, and these are just a couple things about us. Also on top of that, it was important to keep it easily to update it in the future. And so the tool that I decided to use for this web development was just an easy online developer tool, something that was just click and drag, not too difficult. So in the future, since this is a smaller church and they can't hire a full-time IT guy on staff, hopefully a secretary can easily figure out, okay, all I need to do is click in here, change this text box, and then we're good to go for the future. So with that in mind, I started formulating sort of what I wanted my website to look like. On top of that, something that I think about whenever making websites is who is this for? Specifically, the church, what kind of church are they? You know, if they're an older congregation and maybe they're not even bringing in a lot of people, maybe that's not really their focus, then maybe a website wasn't even something in their thinking. Or maybe if they're a very young, very vibrant church with a lot of youth coming, then maybe they're going to focus on a lot of concerts and like big flashy stuff. So in learning about this church, it is a young startup church. They do have a decent mixture of young and old. And so in creating this site, when talking to, I was talking with Ty Williams over this, he's the one that set this up with me. We decided that we didn't want anything too flashy, but not anything too old. So with that in mind, this is the website that I created. So everything is published online, but nothing is fully, fully up and going yet. Basically, I created sort of a template for them to go back into, fill in the details for, and I guess it didn't pop up for you guys. One second, my apologies. But something they could go back to, fill in the details for, and kind of make it how they want it to look. So let's see if I can get this up. There we go. Okay. So this is just the title page of the church, something that, like I said, shows your name really quick. Got the flowing water in the background, something just catch the eye, but a little easy and soothing. And so with the design of this, most of the content is just on this home page. I had used a scrolling view to where you click the button, slides down, goes on to the next section, and you can continue on going through this and learning a little bit about their church. Some options that I open up for them if they want to use in the future is if they want to record sermons, then they can go to this page, they can click on here, and there's already a layout where they can put up sermons for the weeks on per se. Like they have congregation that can't necessarily make it out to church, then that might be something that they pursue and do. And the last part of this, of the title page, is just to support the mission. And these are all just dummy pages where they can put in, like, this is how you can be praying for the church, this is how you can serve in the church, and this is how you can give to the church. And so very simple, very straightforward of what this church wanted to display that they were. And of course, there's the contact page and their social media page as well. Awesome. So on to the Android app. So for this was kind of more of my own project. I tried to kind of take from the website, but mostly just kind of think of like what would a church be using an app for? Because at first thought, like, an app is often used for games, for like keeping their schedule, like not necessarily something you use at a church. So that was kind of an original mindset of where I started, and then I progressed from there. So my goals in this were to learn Android Studio. It was a whole new field for me, and as you'll see later on, there's a ton of buttons everywhere and a ton of folders and lots of different parts to it that at first glance is very intimidating. And so I spent a lot of time just learning that, and also refreshing on Java coding, but also learning the style of Java, which is Android application has its own style of Java for writing these applications. So I spent a ton of time learning that. About, I'd say, 3/4 of this project was spent on just studying and reading books, reading online resources, forums, YouTube videos, and then the last part of it was just putting it all together. And this was a 40-hour project, and I put just a little over that amount of time in there. And then also, I decided on just creating a front-end app. And so what I mean by that is that there's the front end and the back end. So whenever you go to a web page, what you see is the front end. And then going on in the back is where it's pulling all the information from to show you what's on the front. So the back is the really heavy end of any kind of web development, app development. That's where the hard work is being done. And that would take a lot of time of learning. And so I decided to focus mostly on the front end, kind of learn what it was to make an app, and then not so much going into the back end. And so this is just another idea. Like, it's just the tip of the iceberg. So at the top is kind of what codes you use for the front end, those specifically for web development, and then the back end, you can see there's a lot more going on. So now I'll go ahead and remote into my computer over in the Party Center, where I have Android Studio running. So this is the program that I used for developing apps. Like I said, there's just words everywhere, and it took hours upon hours just figuring out where things were and stuff. And so I'm not going to go into like all the different parts of it, but that's the Android Studio that I spent a long time just learning. And then built into the studio, they have what's called an emulator, where you can see what your app looks like on a phone. You can specify what kind of device, whether it's a tablet or it's a certain kind of Android smartphone, and then check it out and see what your app looks like. So this is the home page of my app, and as you can see on here, I just have a basic image, sort of like a verse of the day going on, and then down here, upcoming events. So it's all set up. It's all set up to be sort of like if it were to be pulling from a database, then this is what it would be looking like when it came to the front end. So I'm sorry. Emulators are also very glitchy, so they don't work as well as the actual product. So sometimes we'll have little quirks like that. But yeah, so that's kind of what I had going for the front page of this app. Just a little scroll view down here showing what events there are going to be. And then in my mind in the future, if I were to put a back end on this, then this would be like a verse of the day that would change from day to day, obviously. And so up here I have another linking icon to Facebook, like I did on the web page. And all of these outside links I decided to set up to where it opens up in the app. Therefore, it won't have to open up a browser and close you out of the app, because that's just more usage of the phone. It'll slow it down. It's a lot quicker to keep it all in the app, and they don't have to leave to do different tasks. And so they're at the Facebook opening up in the app. And then over here, I just have a few more pages that I made. I also set it up to where the website would open up in the app. And so, neat thing about the Wix online developer tool is that it kind of already sets it all up into a mobile looking view for you. And so, just another easier function for when people are using it in the future. They don't have to worry about that as much. Another page that I made was a page for notes, and so this would be something that, if you're sitting in a church service and, some churches have bulletins where they'll have sermon notes on it, or sometimes they'll put it on PowerPoint. Actually visited James River Church down in Springfield this semester, and it's the biggest church in Missouri, so it's a mega church, and they have their own smartphone app. And one of the things they did was have their sermon notes on the app, so you could just pull it up. You could jot down whatever you were thinking about it and then save it, and it's just a handy little feature, something I never really thought about, I guess, going to smaller churches a lot, and a lot of these things I hadn't even really thought about until I checked out that church and kind of saw what they had going. And so that's one of the features of this app. And then the last feature is something I can talk to Ty about, just that, if they were to have an app, it would be really neat if they had just a tool that gave a quick reference to, laying out the gospel. So, that's the focus of this church, and so if they can have short, sort of like references to verses, or just how to lead through a conversation just on their phone or in the church app, then it's just a neat little tool that can be added into this. So that's the Android Developer Studio. That's the app run on the emulator. Yeah, and that's pretty much my presentation. That was my project. So, yeah. So I guess this is time for questions. If you guys have any, feel free to ask. There's just some resources out there.
We do encourage you, if you have a thought or a question, to ask him, so you can give him a chance to respond.
What is the plan for the next step? I mean, you said you didn't develop this all the way to a finished product, but the goal was to have something that a church secretary or somebody could keep updated.
Right.
There's a big gulf in between.
Right.
It's not completed and it's simple to keep updated.
Yeah. So, and that's kind of one problem with like having an app for a smaller church. It's not necessarily practical if you don't have an IT guy. And so one thing I would want to do is probably go back and recreate the website just from scratch and not use a developer, an online developer tool. And therefore, like, I could kind of connect the app and the website a lot more and pull information from the website directly to the app, and then kind of use the back end of the website as a shared database for the two.
So when they go ahead and change the text in the verse of the day or something, then it automatically populates.
Right, or if you add an event to a calendar, then it just
something
goes everywhere. So the setup that it is right now, it's a little quirky, but taught me what I needed to know, I think. So.
Did you happen to download what you made onto an Android phone? Or just use the emulator, or what did you do?
I stayed on the emulator, just mostly because of lack of time, but, you know, I've done that a little bit fast, and, you can't, or I chose not to go ahead and put it on the Android Play Store, just because there is a license fee to that, and, I didn't wanna get into all of that, but, it shows just like the emulator does as well, and, I just wasn't able to display
Is it
so-
possible to download it to a local phone or an individual phone?
Yes, yeah.
Has Ty seen this?
Nope. He hasn't.
How
Thought he
soon,
was gonna be here,
how soon will the website be live?
but. The last time, so I'm kinda talking to the church through Ty, and so things can be a little slow. But last time I heard, they've been voting on sort of a logo so that we can implement that into the website. And then really, it would just take, somebody just a couple hours to fill in the little details on the website. And, hopefully in the next week they want it up, so. That's the goal.
Is that something you will continue to work on for them if you're not here?
Probably not, so, just because projects build up, I think this is, the third website that I've had to build or I've helped build for someone, and so I can't necessarily keep up with all of them, so, so I kinda just train them on what they need to know, and that's why I use these simple editors, and then, cut ties with it afterwards, so.
And in your experience, you had to do shadowing hours, and then you said MoDOT and this. As a CIS student, do you think these experiences are something that all of our students should go through, continue through? They may not work at MoDOT, but should they have this internship experience?
Yeah, most definitely. Like, the project really allowed me to focus on a part of the department that we didn't necessarily go in depth in with the whole group, but allowed me really to look into what Android development was, and I think that was very beneficial for me. And then just having the experience working outside of the school, and I mean, it's an internship, but it's a normal job, and just having you know, that experience, I think experience is usually priority over just knowledge in my mind, so I think it's very beneficial, and yeah, future students should go through both. And the internal internship was also very nice to have, just kind of an environment where they knew what I needed to learn, and so they knew what things they could have me do, tasks to have me do, so I could get comfortable doing those in the future, but also just a pretty relaxed but professional environment, so. What else?
Josiah, what would be the ideal position you see yourself working in with your degree and
Mhm.
experience?
Well, this summer I'll be working at a data center, and I'm interested to learn kind of what that's all about. And that will be some hardware, because they contract the IT guys out for different businesses, and then some help desk and some cloud, working on cloud. But me personally, I would like to get into more program development, not necessarily the back end of that with all the math and stuff, but just kind of the upfront typing out code for applications. Or I would like to learn more about that anyways.
Why didn't you touch iOS?
Because that would have been a whole nother, they use two different languages, and so I don't know anything about the language that iOS uses. Even though I wasn't super familiar with the Android's Java, I knew Java enough to where I felt comfortable hopping into this project, and it was reasonable within the 40-hour time span, so.
How much actual Java coding did you have to do?
A decent amount. A lot of it is learning what you can use and then being able to go out and find it. and then learning how to implement that into the project. And so, I don't know, I wrote pages on pages of Java code, but I guess I could kind of show you a little bit.
We don't have to go through every line. I was just
Right.
curious if you spent,
But like, yeah, all these pages that are open and, no, those are all kind of built from scratch, along with a good handful of these files over here. So. And it seemed like a lot of it was seeing something that would work and then putting it into my project and it not working, and then spending like the next hour trying to get it to work, and so that was fun, but I guess this is part of developing, so.
My old eyes can't read that from here. Are you using a case?
Here, yeah, I'm using a switch case. This is what I used for the menu at the top, so it has the different categories, and so I used a switch case.
When you were showing the website with the menu at the top, and you finished that, you very quickly went past a screen that had a picture like of the front of a church building or something, maybe it has like an A-frame kind of front. And then later you talked about it, you had the social media note, was that their Facebook?
Oh, yeah, that was their
page?
Facebook page.
Okay,
I was just
so
clicking.
The plan is you can incorporate their Facebook, being pulled from their Facebook page into your website and or app.
That would be also a nice feature. No.
Was that what that was?
No, that was just a social media icon up at the top, so
But not linked, actually linked to their Facebook?
not pulling from it, no.
yeah, that's two different questions. Linking to it and pulling from it are two
Right.
different things.
Right.
So you were linking to it,
I was linking to it.
so you really were looking at their Facebook page.
Correct, yeah.
But pulling means you would pick something off of that page and bring
Right.
it over to
Right.
your phone.
Which I believe with
Input.
Wix is a very easy thing to do as well. They have little widgets where you can see the things that have been said about Saving Grace Church. So that could be something that's implemented with Wix pretty easy.
Well, where I was going with that was, another program you might consider recommending to them if they're going to try and incorporate some things that exist into their website and into their, if they actually use an app. Our church uses GroupMe, which is, when one person sends an email, it goes to or a text message, it goes to everybody who signed up, and then when anybody responds is in that group, it goes to everybody else in the group. But it's a great way to share prayer requests when somebody has a need, find out somebody's in the hospital or something. You just type it once and it goes to everyone, and if they respond, praying for you or something, everybody else gets to see that happen.
Yeah.
But that exists already.
Right.
So it'd just be a matter of incorporating that into the app or whatever, so they click on a button, share prayer request, and goes to everyone.
And I did delve into that a little bit, but I used Google's APIs. And so what I was doing there though was pulling from a calendar. And so Google has a very easy, like attached to your Gmail account, you have a calendar, and if you add events in the calendar, then like you can share that with a group of individuals. And so I kind of set it up to where I was pulling that information from the calendar and onto the app. And so if there was an event that was coming up, then it would pop up in the app, and once it was passed, then it wouldn't pull up anymore. But it just wasn't super functional, and I decided not to go into it very much. But kind of the same concept where it would email you if you said you're going, or you could also send a message.
That everybody else can see.
Yeah, and I also thought about incorporating that on the website, but there's the contact page, and they didn't really give an option for you to send a message without attaching your email on it. And so some things with prayer requests, some people just don't want to put their name or anything on it. I don't know. I just chose not to add an additional page on it for that reason. So.
You can thank them for coming.
Yeah. Well, if there's another question. Thank you very much for coming, and thank you for listening.
Nope.
Yep.
For creating your website, do you use a template or do you code everything?
For that website, it's just a simple template, like you choose one and then it's just click and drag. So for that website, like I said, it was a very easy process of developing that. But they were set up templates that you can pick from ahead of time. So the whole idea of like showing through just the front page was how the template was sort of set up already. So.
But then that is not the case for the phone app.
Correct, yeah. Then the phone was just from scratch. 'All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you very
Well,
much.
thank you for coming, and we hope you'll leave those with me, and so we'll give those to Josiah so he can see. Appreciate your input and your support to him as a student. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Oh, yeah, thank you, yeah.
Put your extras in here.
Yeah, well, I'm running a conference too.
Well, some days we don't have to be right here. Some days we didn't get by.
Hope you can do that.
Good job. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, boss.
Thank you. Good job.